My name's Alvin A. Horne. I'm known also as Andy. My last attained rank was as a Navy lieutenant. At the time of my enlistment to go to OCS, I was a Harris County, Houston, Texas assistant DA with 3 years of prosecutive experience. And I resigned in order to go to OCS in May of 1967. I was commissioned, I believe, on September, how about the 15th or so of 67. And the following Monday, I reported to the Navy Justice School for an 8-week course on the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I had already known that I was to be assigned to the USS Princeton LPH 5, then undergoing yard overhaul in Long Beach, California. After attending the school and some pre-deployment leave, I reported to the Princeton in early December 1967. Well, it was a cold, rainy night in Long Beach, and it had all the, if I could speak in metaphors, it was like walking into a darkened surgery room and the patient's laid out there with his guts on the table and wires and cables, but in this instance it would have been, you know, IVs and that sort of thing going. I mean, to me, yard overhaul was a terrible time for any ship. And getting loose from all of that and getting back out to sea is the best time. We came out of the yard, I think probably in early January, and from January until May of 1968, we were getting our sea legs back, loading up to go to Vietnam, and doing sea trials and that sort of thing. I was assigned to be the legal officer. They had a non-lawyer billet as a legal officer, but what they got instead was a 3-year prosecutor who had been to justice school. I did not ask for that assignment. I didn't come in the Navy to be a lawyer, but I did enjoy having that exposure, and I really enjoyed the job. By the time we left for Vietnam, I had managed to no longer be the 27-year-old boot ensign. We got to Vietnam and went up to amphibious. We were part of amphibious ready group. We got to the area between Da Nang and the DMZ, where we patrolled for the next several months. And I say several because we started leaving the zone in late November of '68. I made one trip into Da Nang carrying some dope that had been seized, turned it over at the Naval Intelligence, Naval Investigative Service office at 20 Dewey Ton, still remember the address, 20 Dewey Ton in Da Nang. My helicopter didn't return to pick me up. And that night I checked into temporary quarters and went to the O Club, went back to the room, and that night there was a rocket attack on the city and sappers were coming in, and I had some interesting exposure to that sort of environment. But the next day I went out to the Marine Camp Tenshaw to have a more secure environment. And while I was out there, they closed the club out there. And at the time, I met a guy who was a PSYOPs officer, kind of billeted on our ship. And he was getting around on WPBs, the Coast Guard vessels. And so I asked him if I could bum a ride on the WPBs going back to the Princeton. And he said, sure. So the third night I spent on the WPB, and they left the next morning. That was my first ride on a patrol boat. And I had been wanting to get on Swifts before I entered the Navy, and this solidified my desire to do that. They got me back to the ship, which might as well have been the Queen Mary. It was so huge. After that experience, we completed our patrol period, went back to Yokosuka before coming home, and then we got back to the States in mid-December 1968. At that time, we became the designated recovery ship for the Apollo 10 mission. The following, whatever that was, it would have been late May, I suppose. And that was the pre-lunar landing mission. They just went around the moon and didn't do anything other than do that. We successfully recovered the capsule. By that time, I had my orders to the Swift Boat School,